Welcome back to See Your Baby Daddy. I'm single mom attorney. Today we have a beautiful guest joining us. She's actually a former client, Brenda Moya. Thank you for being here today.
I'm happy to be here today.
And we also have Angee Chavis, which is one of our beloved associate attorneys. You're back here for round two.
Round two, let's do it.
I love it. Well, today's topic is going to be about the dreaded baby daddy that works cash under the table. We all have that one. It's not the W-2s. Those are the easy ones to come after, right? But these are the 1099s, okay? So here's the thing. Okay, so Bootsy Texas 96 posted in the Reddit community, broke baby daddy that brags about money on social media. Hi from West Texas. I recently settled my child support case with my son's dad after 6 years of trying to hunt him down. The judge set his child support under $800, and this was based on the income, in quotation marks, he was able to prove. I happen to know he has investments in bars and restaurants that he doesn't claim on taxes. Mind you, during mediation, he tried to get me to agree to $300 a month because supposedly that was all he could afford. Meanwhile, he promotes the businesses he's an investor for on social media, cars, trips, etc. He is already behind on his payments. What would you recommend in this situation? Wow, I feel like I hear this every week. Every week we have some baby daddy out there that he's underclaiming his income. He's saying, I don't make that much money. I own a business. There's all these write-offs. So in Texas, we base child support based off of a percentage of the non-custodial parent's net income, right? So that's super easy to calculate when they're bringing their pay stubs and it's like, okay, cool, 20% of what's left out. What's left after taxes every month, right? But if they're 1099 or they own their own businesses, it's like, how do we really calculate how much money they make, right?
Exactly. So then we got to be a sleuth snoop and try to figure out, okay, some of the things we do go to is like the BLS, Board of Labor and Statistics. We try to figure out, okay, what does somebody make that is basically doing this particular type of work? LinkedIn, we go to Facebook, we kind of dig in to try to find out, okay, yeah, you posted on Instagram, you were working at such and such a place. Do believe that we will bring that information to court and we'll get those documents and we'll bring it in as evidence for sure. Exhibit A, Your Honor.
Absolutely. What does your baby daddy do?
He actually owns a restaurant.
He does.
So, that cash, it's not.
Very cash heavy business for sure. So did you find yourself having any problems with him not claiming all of his income when they were calculating child support?
I did. We did go through a mediator and they took his word by whatever he was making. And after that, they just told me, well, that's all we can do.
Yeah.
And the business that he's in, that's all we can do.
Yeah.
That's when I had started. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
We got to do something about it.
Got to do something about it. And then she hired us, right?
Absolutely. Because they'll tell you, say, oh, I only make $100 a month, but it's up to us to try to make sure that we get them to, do what's right regarding their children.
Yes. Yeah. We definitely hear it said a lot that, they own a business and they're like, well, but my business doesn't profit. But then it's like, okay, well, you just bought yourself a new truck. So the math is not mathing, right? But I mean, yeah, we see that a lot. And, those are always my initial questions whenever I'm consulting with a mom that has this problem with her baby daddy is just, what kind of lifestyle does he live, right? Because I want to know, is it worth the attorney's fees to actually do a deep dive in discovery? Are we going to be asking for the bank statements? Are we going to be subpoenaing things? Am I going to be asking for deed records? How much real estate do you have? I mean, what do you own? What's your lifestyle? Where do you live? I want a copy of the lease, right? Like, how much money do you pay in rent, right? So those are the things that we would be asking for. But then also, if it's somebody that, for the most part, lives a pretty humble life and, maybe he gets paid cash, like being a construction worker or something like that, I'm like, okay, well, at that point, you have to weigh your pros and cons, right? So it could cost a lot of money. Those cases are litigation heavy. Like they are not cost effective, which is the very unfortunate part. But then also, if the client doesn't really have money to be subpoenaing and doing discovery and things like that, my follow-up questions are usually like, well, what do you have, right? Because he makes more money, right? So how much of that is going to be admissible, right? Do you know he makes more money because somebody told you? Hearsay. right? Do you know he makes more money because you saw something on social media that he publicly posted and it's available to the public and I can use as an exhibit, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, I've gone as far as to use a Google review. The guy said that he didn't work somewhere or he didn't own a place or I forgot what it was. And sure enough, like somebody left him a glowing review about, and they mentioned his name in the Google review. So I was like, okay, well, you know, you get him on cross and he's like denying everything, but then that's great evidence to show, actually, Your Honor, he's lying, right? And so sometimes we don't have the funds to do all of this discovery, but we do have that additional evidence, right? I don't know. It helps when they're flashy is what I'm trying to get at.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it
I
does.
try to ask them, you know, are you in contact with like their parents? Do you still have a relationship with your baby daddy's, you know, mother, father? Is there any information that he may have shared with them that you can get documentation from? I mean, it's a snooping mission, but if you can do those things, you avoid discovery and you avoid that expense. It really is a good opportunity. But like you say, if they're working construction and you just don't have the opportunity to get any tangible documentation, you know, we're not that kind of firm that are not going to advise you in the right direction to spend your money. We're going to make sure you spend your money and be a good steward of your finances. So,
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, I've definitely had cases where they do own restaurants, they own businesses, and they're just super flashy about it. I've had cases where he's rented the next penthouse, best penthouse in Houston, and it's just like, the math is not mathing, and that's what we have to tell the judge often. But I mean, child support is a very sensitive subject. Sometimes the judges will think that we're on a fishing expedition for things that, you know, we're just having to file motions to compel for because they don't always want to produce it in discovery either, you know? So it just gets very, very costly. And the unfortunate part is that sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they get away with it, sometimes they don't.
and the opportunity to try to find out that information is an opportunity in and of itself. But like we say, it's financially costly. So you just want to make sure that you have the right people who are going to seek out the right information and streamline that so it's cost effective. Because like I say, working in a restaurant, it's very difficult. Tips, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that go on that people don't report on their tax returns.
Correct.
So even if we were to get, like you say, at mediation, they'll say, this is what I made, this is, the amount I made. Sometimes that's not necessarily clear, and so we have to do a lot of investigation for that to
Correct.
see, that's
Brenda, was there a lot of discussion between you and your baby daddy about filing for child support? I mean, what was going on like behind the scenes of this case?
I actually gave him options.
Oh, yeah?
I told him, do you want to go back to the mediator and modify it? Do you want to take some payments over, either co-payments, the deductible, some.
Were you in what we call the 4D court, the child support court of the Office of the Attorney General at that time?
They were telling me something that I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So I did my research, and I watched on TikTok a lot of information,
Good.
resources, trying to outsource what I can do.
Yeah.
That's
Good
when.
for you.
So then when he saw me taking action, that's when he was like, "Oh, she's serious," because he did threaten me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yes, he said, "Well, I want 50-50.
Of course.
Sure.
Or
That's
I
their
want
ticket
full
out of child
custody."
support.
But
Mhm.
so I was like, "No, let's do this the right way." You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting an attorney to evaluate the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he was like, "Okay."
Mm-hmm. Is his restaurant pretty successful?
Well, he wants to open another one.
Oh, so it's
Apparently.
successful enough to
That
open a
tells
second
you.
location.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just funny that they think that we as women, I mean, we're going to do the most. We're going to be going on social media, looking at what they're posting.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they have Finstas. Sometimes we have Finstas. Like, we will find the information, right?
But he's pretty smart.
Oh,
he
yeah?
is very sneaky. Nothing posted on social media. Nothing.
Nothing.
Mm.
So it was kind of difficult. So that's when I was like, I don't have any evidence, but he has shown me accounts. He talks about this. He got 10 acres. He has taken me and my son to breakfast after basketball, and he pulls out cash,
Okay.
a lot of cash.
lot
So
of
I'm
cash.
like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have some
Very
money, sir.
Yeah.
Let's figure out
Yeah.
where you're getting it from.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that child support, I mean, it's funny that they look at it that way, that it's like, okay, well, I don't want to pay child support, so let me ask for 50-50. And then it's like, it's not payment to see your child. You know what I mean? It's
No.
not. Like, and it hardly supports the child, if we're being honest. You know, I mean, sometimes like some moms don't even get $200 in child support because they want to claim the minimum wage presumption. I don't make any money, da 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 da, right? But I mean, it's honestly like, I wish it was called like child, like reimbursement. Like, you're paying me back for all the money that I've spent, you know, having to raise our child.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, like us as moms, like if we're the primary parent, we're gonna front the fees, whether
Sure.
whether they're paying child support or not, you know.
Of
So
course.
And
yeah.
there's simple things that people don't really realize that come with children, and mostly men don't really realize this that come with children. But you know, in the morning, 8 o'clock, dropping your kid off, Mom, I need money for the field trip. Mom, I need money for the pictures today. I need money because we're having a dress up day, and I'm supposed to buy this T-shirt. There are so many small things that add up for single parents that your $1,500, your $500, your $200 cannot cover. And so, like I've had, at sometimes people who go into court, men who will go into court and say, well, I don't want, I want to give her sole custody because I don't want to pay child support. And judges will look you directly in the eye and tell you you're still going to pay child support. So it's like, that's not an opportunity to see your kid.
Right.
That's just not what that is. That is a support for your child. And it's not easy when only one person is footing the bill.
Yeah.
And that's funny that you say that, because I do text them field trip this much, any extracurricular school events, how much I pay. And all I say is, how much would you like to contribute?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
And that's
nice.
up.
That's
That's
very
up to
nice.
you. And it leaves it, I felt like it leaves it on his conscience. And that's where I leave it.
Right, right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Each state calculates child support differently. Texas is just one of those that they're not gonna necessarily always look at, how much the child is actually costing. You know what I mean? Like, what all does this child run per month, right? Like, what all does the parent have to pay for? They're gonna say, non-custodial parent makes this much money, let's just do a percentage of that. Mom, you make it work. You make it work with that, right? There are opportunities where we can ask for over guideline child support. There's some opportunities where they can ask for under guideline child support. But there's a presumption that, the guideline child support, which is the percentage calculation, is in the best interest. So anybody that wants anything different than that, like if you want over guideline child support because maybe you do pay $2,000 in childcare having to work and, it's like $600 isn't going to cut it, the courts can still consider those things. It's just a very, very challenging argument to make sometimes because it also depends on the county. Some counties, they're just very much like, they're just going to go by the book. They're going to, very, very much like just, we're going with guideline child support, a percentage, Mom, make it work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's very difficult to quantify those miscellaneous items, because as a parent, you're just shelling it out, you know? I mean, your kid needs to soccer cleats, you're going to go buy soccer cleats. Your kid is on a basketball team, they have new uniforms, you're going to go buy it. And so it's very honorable of you to say, how much would you like to contribute? Because I would say, sir, you need to pay, this amount of money because it's costing me that amount of money. It's very honorable that you do that. I commend you.
It took a while because I wasn't like this, but I won my peace.
You want
and
your peace,
that's the only thing I asked for from him. And it's been working, but with nothing written on paper of how much he should contribute or coming to negotiation. Basically it was.
Absolutely.
Yes. And sometimes I don't necessarily want my clients to put in extracurricular activities, because you're bound by those same guidelines as they're bound by those same guidelines. So it would be nice if you could co-parent and, he contribute to extracurriculars. Now, when it comes to medical stuff, it's 50-50 because that stuff gets expensive. Braces could be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So a lot of that stuff is not covered. But when it comes to extracurriculars, I'm really careful about, the advice I give on those things because you don't want to be bound by the same things they're bound by.
Yeah.
And, it could get expensive for you in a, time crunch. COVID's going on. You can't afford a lot of those things. So I try to make sure that they understand those things prior to us putting it in an order.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it just becomes a very personal, sometimes they think it's a personal attack on them if you file for child support.
Yes.
And when in reality, I mean, a child support order is not just a piece of paper that says you owe child support. It comes with many more provisions, at least in the state of Texas it does.
Absolutely.
I mean, custody is discussed, custody scheduled, parental rights and duties, who gets to make what decisions, who gets to claim what kid on the taxes sometimes even. I mean, it just includes so many things. And I think that if a mom wants to go to court, it doesn't have to be this nasty, I'm the better parent kind of fight. It really doesn't. In fact, we try to stay away from that if at all possible, because at the end of the day, it's going to be her and the dad that are going to be stuck co-parenting with this court order, and we don't want to have put her in a position to go to court and, just talk badly about the other parent if at all possible, right? And so when you have a court order, I think that it leaves less room for disagreement. You're not arguing anymore about, who's got to pay for what, because the order just says this is your financial responsibility to the child. Like, it's black and white, And, we're not arguing about where we're going to pick up the kid or what days you get the child. And it's just, if anything, I think it leaves the co-parents sometimes in a better situation to just focus on the child's needs instead of their disagreements, because if they disagree on something, then they just follow the order. They just refer back to it.
I totally agree. I feel like it takes personalities completely out of it. No personalities are in it. I love that we have these apps now where we can have app communication. It's documented, so people are very careful on what they're going to say and what they're not going to say. So I really enjoy that we have these apps now, because prior to the apps, it was just a lot of text messaging, a lot of Instagram messages, Facebook messages. And so we have it all in one place. Mm-hmm. And so people are more careful about what they say. And I feel like it leads to a better co-parenting relationship, because there's a lot of the animosity is just gone. We're just co-parents now. Once you start communicating on an app, you're just co-parents now, and you learn to weigh your words before you say certain things. So I really appreciate that we have those tools available to parents now.
Yeah, right. Because the problem that I run into with when they don't communicate through a co-parenting app, it's the screenshots.
Yes.
It's the screenshots of the messages. So a co-parenting app is something that you and your co-parent can communicate through. Some of them are really, really sophisticated. They keep track of, scheduled, but the point of a co-parenting app is to communicate. So it's like a texting app, right? And sometimes they can even record phone calls. Sometimes you can FaceTime through them. It just depends on the one you download. AppClose or Talking Parent seems to be the one that the courts deviate to, because they're free. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if you do not communicate through a co-parenting app, we've seen cases where mom's like, okay, well, he told me this, right? Like, can we admit this text message? And then I'm like, all right, cool, screenshot it for me, right? And then, it's like they go and they do their homework and they're like scrolling through all of their messages because they don't have a co-parenting app. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, I get a mountain of text messages back, but then, the name of baby daddy on the phone, I'm not going to admit that in court. So you got to go back and screenshot it, because it's mm-hmm. like... But I mean, I tell people that I'm like, if you're going to screenshot text messages, please do not put bad words in the name of his contacts, because how is that going to look like to a judge, and I've seen it happen. So the co-parenting apps, I mean, it's a really simple, just click to print PDF. Everything is chronological, which saves you attorney's fees, because you don't have to pay us to go back and organize the hundreds of screenshots that you sent us. You know what I mean? So I mean, I think it's really, really helpful, the co-parenting apps are. But I mean, child support, mm-hmm. see it all the time, baby daddies, underclaiming or underemploying. Another thing that we see too is when they have a W-2 job, and then they're going to the court and saying, this is how much money I make, here's my pay stubs, mm-hmm. but then they have like side hustles too. And that's still considered income,
Certainly is. And then they have their side hustle, but they have like LLCs, things that they have that are their business. And so they'll present just the business, and they won't present the W-2 to the court or during mediation.
True.
So then you have like a guy who's making $100,000 or more a year, but only presenting his LLC, which has, $30,000, $12,000. And, they're not the most honest people at this point,
Right.
from what you've experienced as,
Yes.
co-parents and actually spouses or, significant others. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of sneaking around to try to make sure that you're not fulfilling your responsibility. And that's the thing that I always try to, instill in people, that it is a responsibility. It's not that that mother wants to go on a vacation, because
Yeah.
quite frankly, $2,000 isn't going to take you very far these days
Even
on
though
any vacation.
even though they want to say that we're spending our child support money on nails, which is hilarious,
I
because I'm
know.
like,
We hear
sir,
that all the time.
it barely
Going
covers
to
the diaper sometimes,
hair
you know?
salon.
Like, how
It's like, really? Is
Yeah.
getting that much child support?
No,
Yeah.
but seriously. And, another challenging thing when they are not W-2 workers, when they don't make a payroll check, is that we can't always, the income withholding order, right?
Right.
So now the mom is having to ask dad, please pay your child support, instead of just it automatically coming out of his paycheck. So there are definitely disadvantages to having a child with somebody that is not a W-2 worker. They have their own business and everything, but it also like really does depend on the character, because we also represent dads, and I've seen dads that they're like, no, I make good money, I'm going to pay the max guideline child support. Let's save everybody the headache, because you're going to find what you're going to find when they subpoena my bank records. So that's just what it is. And Texas does cap the child support, so so we're only looking for a certain amount for the non-custodial parent if they make a lot of money. Sometimes a mom will get the same amount of money as, in child support. If she has a child with somebody that makes $10,000, she can get the same amount of money in child support as somebody that makes $50,000 in a month, So, it does cap.
That's true, which is, beneficial on all sides. No one's trying to fleece anyone
Right.
for financial engagement. They're just trying to make sure that their child is taken care of, and that, the financial burden doesn't only fall on one parent.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we see non-custodial parents kind of getting away with not being held responsible for that financial burden. And it just needs, it's going to be equitable. I always try to tell my clients that it's going to be equitable. It's not, when you separate, it's not necessarily equal, but it'll be equitable for you and manageable for you, according to, the Texas Family Code and the guidelines. So with that said, it's important to make sure that you get the right numbers.
Correct.
Because we don't have, some people don't put forth that good faith effort of, some people do. I'm not saying that everyone is the same, but that good faith effort is really important when it comes down to raising children.
Absolutely. But the math is not always mathing.
Nope.
And so that's the frustrating part. And then mom's got to pay all these attorney's fees to prove that,
No.
But I always tell people, like, don't lose your mental health or sanity over keeping receipts and screenshotting every little thing. And that's just not like a healthy life to live. But if he posts that he bought a new truck and then he's going to go and say, I lost my job, like, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Can we please be honest here?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But do you have anything to add, Brenda? What was your experience working with our firm? I'm so happy to have a client on the show. So
I am so happy. It
Good.
went really smooth. I was treated very well. Customer service, excellent. But I'm so happy that we finally.
It was a long-awaited case. Oh my gosh. And people often ask me, like, what's the one thing that you don't like about practicing family law? And it's that it's very, very rare, if not, it just never happens, that somebody's going to get everything that they want out of a divorce, or they're going to get everything that they want out of a child support case. So it's like, I'm really happy to hear you say that. That's how family law works,
Exactly.
especially in divorces. But mediation is definitely, I welcome it in a lot of cases, because it's the place that we can get very creative, as opposed to going to the judge and they're just kind of like, all right, we're here to talk about presumptions. Who wants anything else? Are you going to satisfy the burden of proof? And then it's like, it's a lot more pressure, and we don't get, creative injunctions all the time in court, but mediation is where we go to succeed, I think.
I love mediation. I love being able to ask my clients, so what does this look like to you? Like, what do you want out of this mediation? I always do like a mediation prep, and I kind of ask them, what do you want out of this mediation? We have your petition, and we have the things that, that you need relief from. Mm-hmm. But I do want to know, what do you want? And then it's an opportunity to go back and forth and and sometimes I'll ask them, well, you want this. What do you want more? Mm-hmm. So that I can kind of negotiate in a way that they get some things that they want for sure, mm-hmm. and then we can kind of leave some things out and say, okay, well, we'll change that, mm-hmm. and then we'll allow this to happen. And it's always a good opportunity for me. So I like going to
halfway.
Mediation. Yes, I like going to mediation. It works.
It's like I definitely want to know the things that the client is just not even interested in getting, because I'm like, maybe he wants that, mm-hmm. and I can act like you want it too. Exactly. And if we give that to him, then now I'm asking for something back.
Yeah, that's how it works.
And I'm asking for something that she cares more about, And a lot of the times with children, especially when we have inconsistent baby daddies, it's the custody. That's our biggest disputes, and most of the cases is custody. We talk about a lot about child support, but it's like I said, when you go to court for child support, a lot of things about your co-parenting relationship, including custody, are on the table,
Exactly.
So it's not just there to calculate numbers, but
you go to court and a judge will usually standard possession order, mm-hmm. usually standard guideline support. Mm-hmm. And so when we go into mediation, we can tweak those things and have an opportunity to get, our clients more of the things that are most important to them. Because judges, they're like, standard possession order? Standard child support. Mm-hmm. And then they move on because they have like hundreds of people in the lobby waiting to talk to them. So
especially in 4D court, and when we hear those cases about he's underclaiming his income, or he's underemploying himself, it's like I said, I ask, how do you know that? And I'm looking to see if that evidence is admissible, because at the end of the day, testimonial evidence, meaning what you say on the stand, is only going to go so far, right. Because it could become a he said versus she said, and then if a judge is hearing like so many cases, they're churning and burning through these child support cases a day. They're like, all right, presumptions, guidelines, SPO. That's what they're, so.
Yeah, if I have evidence, I'm moving it out of the child support court. If
mm-hmm.
I have evidence, I'm going to say, can we transfer this
to the district?
To the district
mm-hmm.
court, because I have evidence, so I can go in front of the judge and I can say, hey, this is the evidence that I have that he is making this particular amount of income, so he's underreporting. Judge, he has a bachelor's degree in mm-hmm. chemical engineering, but he works down at Dixie Mart on the corner. I see him there all the time.
And he just magically lost his job right when we served him.
Absolutely.
So that's suspicious, right?
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes you do have to transfer those cases out. And I really, really caution moms that, it's just so easy to go online and be upset with your baby daddy and being like, you know what, I'm just going to go file for child support. Sometimes not everybody wants a court order, and that's a whole nother topic that we can get into in another episode. But when you do that, sometimes you can't take it back, because now the state's involved, and they're like, oh, I didn't know it was going to come with custody provisions. I didn't know, Yes. And so a lot of the times I'm asking my clients, well, what is he doing right now that you like? What is he doing right now that you don't like? And I really do try to calculate, the child support, because sometimes I'm like, okay, well, actually, if you take him to court, mm-hmm. he's going to give you, he can give you less, he's giving you a lot more than guidelines right now. So, sometimes it means that I don't sign a client, but then also at the same time, she might find herself in a better situation. It just depends. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm so happy to have had y'all on this show. Angee, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Love my associate attorney, Brenda. Such an honorable thing. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that you signed up with us as a client. And honestly, I tell people, I'm like, I hope you never have to use us again. But if you do,
I know
we're here. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Let us know what you want us to talk about next.